You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining me on the Newsmaker line right now is a gentleman I saw when he was a lot younger than I thought he was, back in the PWO days, thanks to a nifty package I had from DirecTV. So I was able to watch it out here in Arizona. Yeah. I'm speaking of Matthew Justice. Are you with me, Mr. Justice?
Yes, I am. All right, man. So you had the sports package and you got Sports Time Ohio in Arizona, huh, dude?
That is right. Yeah, and it's pretty cool because if you think about it, I know your history, and I know you, like me, we both were watching ECW at like 2 in the morning, and that happened to be the time slot.
2 a.m. on the Cat, whatever it was.
Very good. Yeah, and that's the same time spot that Prime Wrestling or Pro Wrestling Ohio had. So it's kind of ties into your foyer into pro wrestling. Yeah.
Was it 2 a.m. for you? Because where I was, it was like 10. We had a better time slot in Cleveland. It was like 10.
I think it aired like 2 a.m. where I was, so I had to like DVR it and watch it the next morning. Yeah. All right. Well, of course, we're having you on to discuss the coming up match that you have at Lucha Apocalypto. It's going to be a no-holds-barred match as you take on Bad Dude Tito. I'm looking forward to seeing Falls Count Anywhere. I've been corrected.
Falls Count Anywhere. No holds are barred, obviously, because it's Falls Count Anywhere, but Falls Count Anywhere. All bets are off. We could go on the roof, the street. You never know what you're going to get, especially with me. So.
Well, he recently attacked you. I guess my question was going to be, what can fans expect from this match between you two guys?
Like you just said, he attacked me. He started this, really. There was no reason for us to fight. So this is my first chance to get my one-on-one revenge, and that's, I'm not like him where I'm just going to attack him backstage. I'm actually going to stand across the ring and look at you, and I hope he brings his best because I'm ready.
Very cool, and you could definitely see in your style that you were influenced by what we talked about earlier, which was ECW. And, I'm a little bit older than you. I grew up with the Hulks and the Machos, but I eventually found the ECWs. So it was really cool. I'd go to high school in an ECW shirt one day and an NWO shirt the next, which kind of is the antithesis of one another. But what appealed to you about ECW? What made that make you kind of realize this is what makes me want to be a wrestler?
I think the grittiness of it, the grunginess of it, obviously the heavy metal aspect of it. Paul Heyman's put that over. Like the crowd was like an ECW or like a heavy metal crowd. But I definitely just think that like it wasn't glitz and glamour. It was just that raw, and the extreme violence obviously played into my. I just enjoy the car crash, just taking the risk, putting it all on the line. And ECW had that, and those guys were also just like, once you get more into the business side of it, those guys were doing what they had to do to make a name for themselves after years of not being given a shot or whatever it was. And I love that. And that's definitely like kept that fire lit under me to just always be trying to chomp at it, and just chase it.
Very cool. And, of course, MLW kind of has ties back to ECW. It kind of sprang up from the ashes of what was ECW, Court Bauer.
Mike Awesome is a former MLW and ECW champion, and that is exactly why I love being in a company like Major League Wrestling.
And very cool. Yeah, Mike Awesome, former guest on my show, too, which was really cool. I'm old. I've been doing this a while.
That's awesome.
So, absolutely.
He died in 2007, right? So that means.
Yep, I had him on in 2000.
You've been doing this for quite some time, then.
Yep, 22 years in a couple of weeks. It'll be 22 years. I'll take it. Nobody's beaten me up yet either, so that's a good record for me.
That's good.
All right, so I guess my question was going to be, when you get to play places like where ECW played, and I know you've done a lot of those venues, but especially the ECW arena, does it hold a special place in your heart? Does the 10-year-old Matt Justice think, wow, this is where I saw Jerry Lynn and Rob Van Dam and all those guys?
Yes. Well, when I started wrestling, my initial two goals were wrestle one match for WWE and wrestle in the ECW arena. kind of thought, especially at that time in the early 2000s, there were so many random indie companies that ran at the arena. I thought for sure that would be the more easy, obtainable goal of the two. And somehow I wrestled hundreds of matches for the WWE, and I never, up until 2023, I never wrestled at the ECW arena. I'd been there a few times, but I'd never actually gotten to perform there. So the fact that when I made my debut in MLW in February of 2023 in a dumpster match, that was my debut in the ECW arena. So my first moment in the ECW arena was elbow dropping from the top of the rafters off of a ladder into a dumpster.
Crap.
And like, that's just like off to the races in the ECW arena. And I've just been, since then, you know, everything we've done with MLW there. So I've had a ton of moments and memories now in the arena. But it just makes it all that much more special that it took me so long to make it there. And it was with MLW, and I'm, you know, obviously my future is with MLW, and that's pretty cool, man.
MLW, very cool company. My time in ECW arena was back during its original run before it was cleaned up, and I remember.
Now it's like nice and redone. So I mean,
yeah,
you get like
I had to walk up the wood plank.
We get the modern luxuries. You actually got to see like the original, like dilapidated version, which is kind of like jealous.
Yeah, walking up the wood plank with weird puddles underneath it to get to the bathroom. Yeah,
that was when the doors were actually at the corner of the building, like the old where they're blocked in now.
Wow, I haven't been there in a while. I didn't even know they changed that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's completely expanded. They blew up the walls, going the other way. It has like the natural like concessions lobby area now and everything else, dude.
Very cool. All right. Of course, I know the answer to this, but Justice being part of your last name, Hetfield being part of your last name when you worked for WWE, obviously, you like Metallica a little bit.
Yes, I love Metallica. One of my favorite bands. My favorite band growing up. And Justice for All came out in 1988. That's the year I was born. And just. Yes, James Hetfield is one of my great all-time. Just like any other wrestlers that have inspired me, James Hetfield is right there. He's top idol hero in my life. Just his life as a performer, as a man. So definitely.
I have a 15-year-old, and he's discovered wrestling over the past couple years. And the other day, I walked into his room, and he
great time in life when that happens.
And I walked into his room, and he was blasting Metallica on his stereo, and I thought, you know what? What is it about pro wrestling that? Because obviously I'm a rock guy too. What is it about pro wrestling that kind of just you're also going to like this music? Well, what is it about that?
I think the energy. There's just this teen angst, you know, and there's an energy of heavy metal and pro wrestling that syncs up with just certain kinds of people. You know what I mean? Other people, it's like punk rock or whatever, or some other type of rebellion. But there's just something about the built up. I don't want to call it aggression, because some people take that wrong. But like just that energy, and it's such a great release, man. Metal and wrestling, they really do go hand in hand.
Very cool. All right. Well,
just the frenetic, just that frenzy of just the energy levels building and building and building, and finally it's one of the best feelings ever.
I agree. I found AC/DC Back in Black was my first record, and I played that thing until I had to buy another copy. So it wore the damn thing out. So there you go. All right. So we have MLW. That's where you're working right now. Obviously, we're talking about Lucha Apocalypto, free on YouTube on Saturday night.
Can't beat that.
MLW is really doing some stuff. They're making some headlines. We'll talk about one of the other headlines in just a second. But what do you think about the momentum MLW is starting to build and the promotion's growth? There's been some peaks and valleys for this company over the years, especially since they came back. But they're looking good. Things are looking good right now for MLW.
I'm happy to be a part of it, and not just be a part of it. I've been in the trenches, man. I'm probably one of the longest tenured guys in MLW that's been there consistently. I mean, I've been going for 2 years now. I have 2 more years at least with them. And to see it, what it was when I first came in, we were just at the arena. They had been kind of hunkered down at the arena in Philly and Barrows Ballroom in New York. And I mean, now we're completely back out onto the road. We have a full touring schedule. We've sold out every show in 2024 at least, which I think that might go back into 2023 as well. We're going to new markets. We're going back to Texas. I'm sure there's a couple more to come. Like it's just all the pieces and parts that they've picked up and acquired. I mean, guys like me and Cruel and Akira, and then they have the CMLL and New Japan talent listed, and then some of just the other best available free agents in wrestling all across the globe. Like it's the hybrid blend of wrestling that MLW offers right now is just unbeatable, man.
Very cool. And you have all those styles of wrestling, but then you also have a little bit of the storyline going into it too.
Yes.
And that's the other major announcement that's going on, which is Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff's going to be coming in for One Shot. And how does that make you feel that a guy that ran WCW is going to be appearing for MLW, and they say having full creative control?
That's pretty cool, man. Actually, in 2020, I was wrestling in Fargo, North Dakota during the Wild West days of COVID wrestling and trying to keep the business alive during the dark times. But after the show, I went on a little journey just to get away. There was nothing else to do. I was on a little soul-searching adventure, and I ended up meeting up with Eric Bischoff in Cody, Wyoming. They had a couple beers. It's pretty cool, pretty surreal moment, you know, that he was willing. He must have been bored at home during COVID because he actually came out and met me at the bar, and we shot the shit, had a bunch of, I think we probably drank about 100 Coors Lights, like between the two of us.
Wow.
And I'll be happy to see him again because we shared some great times, great moments, and obviously, yeah, I mean, his history in the business. And I'm really interested to see what they have in store for us at One Shot and what his plans are going to be, what his presentation is going to end up looking like. So, and hopefully I'm going to be walking into Eric Bischoff's MLW One Shot as the MLW National Openweight Champion as well, if all goes my way at Lucha Apocalypto this Saturday.
This Saturday on YouTube, absolutely. You mentioned the pandemic, and one of my favorite DJs always says it was like waking up in your favorite 70s sci-fi movie. What was it like being a wrestler then, when you're wrestling in front of very few, if any, people, and there's no crowd to play off of? Was that a difficult adjustment for you guys in the ring to do?
It definitely felt like I was like Will Robinson, dude, lost in space or some shit. That's for sure. It was, like I said, the dark days, because I remember wrestling shutting down thinking, oh, man, I'm not going to wrestle for at least a year, I bet. And then within 3 months, I mean, we're outside in fields having shows. But that's what it takes to, who knows what would have happened if no one ran for an extended period of time. And like, not like studio tapings and stuff like we were doing, but like, what if no one ran at all? How hard would it have been to just restart the indies a year or 2 years later? I mean, it was really just, we were doing our best to fight and to find a way around all the restrictions and everything else and social unrest going on, and to just carry on doing what we love and providing people with the chance to maybe escape that harsh reality that we were all living, you know?
Yeah, it seems like for whatever reason, wrestling always finds a way. Not to quote Jurassic Park or anything, but wrestling always finds a way.
It really has. I mean, look at it as an entertainment form. It's been on top forever. Even when people want to doubt it and laugh it off, it's always managed to maintain.
All right, I have two more questions for you. One of them is kind of a layup, but the other one is WWE recently just announced the WWE ID, which is to kind of expand their pressure into independent wrestling. I kind of look at it with two different viewpoints. How do you view WWE doing the ID program?
I mean, it's a good thing. Obviously, anytime there's a clear-cut pathway for people to make it somewhere like WWE, that's all the better. I mean, shit, when I started wrestling, you had to really put in time and effort and a lot of work, and you had to really seek out a way to be put in contact with WWE, period. And I mean, that's like, there was internet, but it's primitive. I mean, my first ever tryout, they faxed my information from OVW to the office of WWE. You know, like when I got signed, like they're still like faxing things, where now you can just like fill out a profile online and you get scouted, and it's great. But also too, I feel a lot of like different opinions on this over the last, it's been a couple of weeks now that it's been announced. But the WWE has always had a hand in pro wrestling, and maybe it's just because I'm in the business, I'm aware of this, but even if it's not an official announced thing, like there's always eyes and ears everywhere for everyone. Like people are always watching, people are always listening, people are always looking for new talent that they can work with, that people they know can work with, that, you know, like, so it's nothing new, but it's great that there's an official program, and all the better if you're a young guy getting into the business now and you want to make it to WWE, you know exactly what you have to do, and you know exactly where you have to go to do it now, and that's great.
Excellent. Well, like I mentioned, MLW Lucha Apocalypto is Saturday night. We're all going to be watching. I will post the link up on the website. But where can people keep up with everything Matthew Justice?
My social media is at Thrash Justice, THRASH Justice. I have Twitter, X, or whatever that is, and Instagram. And my website is thrashjustice.com. I have some shirts if you want to support me.
Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time and doing this with me. And like I said, we'll all be watching on Saturday night on YouTube. And it is a Falls Count Anywhere match. See, I got it right this time. You and Bad Dude Tito, and I can't wait to see it.
You were wrong with the no holds barred, so that's for sure. You know, all bets are off.
All bets are off. All right. Hey, before I let you go, do you mind if I ask for one last favor from you?
Yeah, of course.
You probably know what I'm going to say. Can I get a station ID just saying this is Matt Justice and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio?
Yeah, no problem, man. This is Matthew Justice, and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Buy the ticket and take the ride.